The Jeremiah Patterson Show is officially endorsing Kamala Harris for president. For 248 years, we've had a constitutional system of government, a democratic republic, a system of checks and balances, where no other branch is more powerful than the other, a system where those who violate the law are held accountable and no one man is above it. The right to love who you love, the right to an abortion and to protect your rights as a woman, the right to vote, the right to educate and read, the right to express criticism against your government, the right to keep your menstrual cycles and medical records private, the right to interracial marriage. All of this is at stake in a second Donald Trump administration. He represents a movement that is infused and thrives off of hate, division, and vitriol. A movement that insists on taking America back to a time in which many of us, including women, children, and minorities, did not have the basic rights we do now. It is a movement that is simply un-American. Donald Trump supports a national abortion ban, mass deportation, and plans to wreck our economy even more with national tariffs that we, the American people, would have to pay. He calls the American people the enemy from within and threatens to use the military against them. And this is a man who lost the 2020 election, was fired by 81 million people, and simply could not accept that as a result. So, he staged an insurrection. A person who was willing to commit treason and stage an insurrection, an armed coup against the United States of America, should never be president again. Let's not forget the mountain of his corruption in his administration. He fired the FBI director because he was under investigation, politicized the United States Justice Department to go after his political enemies. Multiple members of his administration were indicted and arrested for lying, being foreign agents, and perpetuating false and unsubstantiated allegations that the 2020 election was stolen. Donald Trump is a man who is invigorated by nothing but cruelty, corruption, and chaos. He does not care, nor can he relate to the middle class, working families, or people. He is only out for himself. He is a pathological liar and a narcissist who will burn this country down. Project 2025 is a dangerous, vituperative agenda that would end American democracy once and for all. Voting would be void. He would become a dictator. He has bragged about wanting the kind of generals that Hitler has, not to mention his admiration of current dictators around the world. He has threatened to strip the media license of various news organizations because their reporting of him is not favorable. That's us. That's an attack on journalism and what we do here at the Jeremiah Patterson Show, in reporting the truth and facts without fear or favor. We are in existential waters, and we cannot afford to sit idly by and let everything our ancestors and those who came before us burn to the ground. This election is more than just about voting. This election is about protecting the rights of the women you love in your life. If you have a girlfriend, if you're married, if you have a daughter, niece, or someone that you're really close with, that's a female. It's about protecting their rights, because it is knowing that the fact that a vote for Donald Trump is a vote against their rights. A vote for Donald Trump is a vote against the rights of all women in America. How can you look at your daughter in the eyes and tell her that you voted for a man that does not have her best interest at heart, that you voted for a man who would make it easier for a man that violates her body, that abuses her, that would make it easier for them to get away with such a grotesque crime, and then the product of that violent assault on her body, she would have to bear that child? How can you look your daughter, your wife, your niece, your girlfriend into the eye and say that you voted for a man who does not respect her body? A man who would not keep in place or reinstate the efforts, the institution of being able to get an abortion, the institution of being able to control your own body as a woman and not allow the government or a man tell you what you should do with your body as a female, especially when they don't even understand it themselves. This election is about the future of our planet in terms of climate change. This election is about the future of our democracy. This election is about more than just the prices of groceries. This election is so much more than that, because I guarantee you, under a second Donald Trump term, the price of groceries will be the last thing on your list because it will be truly hell on earth. Donald Trump has already expressed his animosity, his disdain for minorities in this country, his disdain for the LGBTQ community in this country, his disdain for immigrants in this country. This is not an election to sit idly by. This is not an election to say, I'm going to hold this one out. I'm not going to vote for any candidate. This is an election to get off the couch, get off the bed, get off of TikTok, go register to vote, and do it now. We are just 9 days away from one of the most consequential elections of our lifetime. And it is important to know that you have a former prosecutor, a former United States senator, a former attorney general, and now the current vice president of the United States running against a convicted felon, a convicted rapist, an insurrectionist, a treasonous candidate who is seeking to hold the highest office in our government again. The presidential election is so much more than just the case of one person. It is seriously about who we are going to entrust with the nuclear codes, who we are going to entrust with the great power that the President of the United States receives. Power that can either be detrimental or monumental in its efforts, in its change, or even reversal. If there were to be a President Donald Trump again, half of the things that he's calling on, or half of the things that he's proposing to even do, would not remotely require an act of Congress. He could do a national abortion ban with an executive order. He's already hinted at the fact that he wants to be a dictator, and who's to say that his own party will not be in opposition to that, especially when they have expressed that they are down with Trump no matter what. Therefore, we must understand that a person who is running to be president of the United States with a party that is willing to support him no matter what he says, no matter what he does, including attempting to overthrow our own government. A person like that, with a party that enables that type of fascistic, dictatorial, authoritarian behavior, is unfit to be president of the United States. And if elected, that power would go unchecked, even by his own party, because they enable that leader. That's what's on the line in this election. The president being able to do whatever he wants, especially with a conservative Supreme Court, including 4 members of the court that he appointed during his administration that effectively gave him a free pass, presidential immunity to do whatever he wants, as long as they're official acts of the presidency. You must vote in this election like your lives depend on it. We do not have time to waste. There are 9 days to this presidential election. 9 days. Your daughters, your wives, your girlfriends, your mothers, your grandmothers, your granddaughters, their rights, their lives are on the line. Do you want them to grow up having a future in which they have less rights that their mothers could have had? They have less rights that their grandmothers had. Because that is the very live reality we are facing right now. A time where we are threatened with going back to, in which rights are revoked, interracial marriage is illegal, violence is allowed. Donald Trump has proposed a A day of national violence. One rough hour. Search it up. Research is not illegal, guys. A day of one rough hour. He has also proposed federal immunity for police officers, essentially giving them the right to do what they did to George Floyd. Federal immunity for police officers to do whatever. To use the United States military against protesters, to use the United States military against those he simply does not like, those who disagree with him. This is a crucial election in our lifetime, the 2024 presidential election. And it's not just about voting at the presidential level. It's also about voting at every other single level in our country, because those two hold stakes. We're talking about the local elections, your prosecutors, your judges, your school council members. All of these elections are equally as important. We are endorsing Kamala Harris for president here at the Jeremiah Patterson Show because we do believe that she represents a path forward for this country. A path to continue to allow the economy to grow. A path to help those who are struggling in middle class and working America. A path to continue the trajectory of forward and not backward. A path of unity and not division. A path where we here at the Jeremiah Patterson Show and other news outlets get to keep reporting. We get to keep our license going in terms of reporting the news without fear or favor, without the President of the United States being bothered or threatened or thinking that that criticism is unwarranted, therefore that news organization should not exist. This is why we are endorsing Kamala Harris for president. The election is in 9 days. Vote. Register to vote. Encourage a friend to vote. Send this video to a friend or family member. There's too much on the line to simply stay at home and sit by. Vote in this election. Vote for the candidate who has all of our best interests at heart. Vote for the candidate who will protect the rights of your daughters and your granddaughters and your mothers and your girlfriends and your wives and your grandmothers. Vote for the candidate who is going to help preserve the 248 years of democracy in this country. Vote for the candidate who is not a convicted felon. Vote for the candidate who does not want to take this country back. Vote for the candidate who will bring us forward and who will take us to an increasingly fast-paced, better future. A candidate who represents and understands the very important matters of what many of the youth in this country are going through. Vote for Kamala Harris.